Hello again, Steve here with another video on what I'm going to call confidence. Just simply confidence. Well, more to it than that, really. I mean, you might ask, why confidence, Steve? Why confidence? Well, what I have found is that a lot of people, almost everybody, that's almost a universal thing that people want to improve the quality of their life experience. The question is, what's holding us back? And we can usually say that, it's this person over here, or it's this financial problem, or I don't have enough income, and so on. But if we're really honest with ourselves, those are symptoms of what's going on very often, right? I mean, there's outward things that affect us as well, but in those cases, there's things that we can't do a lot about. So we're going to focus on the things that we can do things about. And a lot of us, for example, I know I was one of them for sure, a lot of social anxiety, fears, and so on, bound up based on early traumas and experiences and so on, which had filled up and made a kind of a false self in a way, right? An unconfident self. So, little tricks that we can use, we can play on ourselves, because if we realize intellectually that we don't need to be this way, yet at the same time we have this emotional compulsion to be that way, then surely we can begin to make strides towards improving what we can anyway. And I just watched this interesting video. I forget the guy's name, but you can search it by going to Project Life Mastery Morning Routine and watch it. It's a young guy in Vancouver. He's really fired up and pumped about his life, and he has what I think is a really good morning routine. And the reason I think it's really good is because I actually did a lot of this for much of my adult life when I was in times of hardship, things that would get me going. And I still practice a lot of it in terms of getting up in the morning. He has this theory, not only a theory, but it's a practice that when he gets up, if he goes through a routine that primes himself for the morning, he doesn't become somebody who just reacts to his life. He becomes somebody who creates as much as he can his life. And that seems to give him a lot of confidence. As you watch this guy, he seems like a very confident young guy. Now, one of the things, so I'm just going to go through some of the points just a few of the points that he had talked about just before getting up out of bed and just getting up out of bed. So one of the things he does, he smiles, right? I mean, smiles, we can go a long way on a good smile, It's amazing how much difference it makes in talking to somebody. We've all experienced it, somebody who's got a nice smile versus somebody who's got a scowl on their face or a neutral face or what have you. As long as it's genuine, the smile with the eyes and everything, we can connect and go, wow, I want to know what that person's on, What's that guy smoking? No, it's like, what kind of life? What kind of life infusion does that individual have? So to smile. He also talks about a good stretch, and it's the cat stretch in the morning, and I did that for the longest time. Just kind of stretch right out, even just in bed, or even just getting out of bed and standing on the tiptoes, right, and just reaching right up, reaching for the sky. You can feel it in every sinew of the body. You can kind of stretch out the joints and everything, because we've been motionless perhaps for quite a few hours, right? He talks about taking a couple of deep breaths. Start to reinvigorate the body. I mean, these things are not necessarily scientific. They're just tricks that work for this guy, and I found that I have followed them, not because I really learned them, but it just seemed to make sense. And I've always been the kind of guy trying to find the common denominator of what works in my life, and I found certain things by just trial and error. And it's amazing how many of these things concur. Those first few things: the smile, the stretch, and the breathe. And the next one he talks about is drinking water. I'm a water drinker, First thing I do when I get up in the morning is I head right over to the kitchen, and when it's warm in the summer, I get some cold water, or in the winter when it's really cold, like right now, it's about -30 outside, I put the kettle on, and I don't necessarily boil it, but warm up some water, get it steaming a little bit, and I got a nice cup of water, maybe a couple of them. And it just gets the whole system moving, just gets it all moving. I don't even bother with breakfast at that point. I'm not really a breakfast eater till later. I always, of course, everybody, when they finally eat, it's called the break fast. Whether you eat it in the morning or you're 10 o'clock or noon, it's still breaking the fast. I like to get some stuff done before I eat, because I just feel lighter, and I find that I'm nourished. My blood sugar is still good enough for the morning. That's been a long time for me too, that he doesn't talk about. But And the next thing he talks about, which I have practiced this for a long time too. I don't always do it, but certainly did for my 8,000 kilometers walk this summer, because that's what I had to do. Is I had to get up and get moving. Was he calls it the rebounder, but get moving. I used to call it the get the blood pumping action. For years, what I would do is I'd get up and get my feet on the road, either for a little jog or a little bit of a walk. Get up and get going. And I used to tell this to people who were my fitness clients years ago when I was a fitness instructor. They'd ask me, how do I have time for what I'm doing, for all of this? And I'd say, well, how long does it take to put your shoes on? And they say, well, what's that got to do with anything? Well, I say, well, put your shoes on in the morning. It takes you 30 seconds, right? Yeah, but they say, but I don't have time to do anything else. I say, well, how long does it take them off? Well, in the 30 seconds, well, then take them off and go to work. Well, what's that going to do? You know what? It's not going to do anything for you physically, but it's conditioning your mind. Put them on, take them off. When you can do that for a few weeks, then you can put them on and you can stand on the front steps, then come in and take them off. What does that do? Not much either, but it's conditioning the mind. Eventually it's to the end of the lane and back, and then it's down the street and around the block and back. Now you're starting to make some action. You're starting to get that blood pumping, and that's important to get things pumping, because confidence is not just a mental thing. It's about getting the whole organism going, the whole emotional, the whole mental, the physical. And of course, as he says, the emotion comes as a result of doing something, right? It's like energy in motion. When we go for a good walk, we feel better, right? It's hard to describe it, but it's not just a physical feeling in the legs. We feel it as a spirit, like almost like a spiritual uplift, right? And he talks about incantations, which sounds kind of, ooh, we're getting a little weird here, aren't we? But what he calls it is just basically conditioning, mental conditioning, right? So he repeats things that he wants. It's like putting forth the things that he wants. Everything's going to work out right. And even if it doesn't, at least, but that's the intention. I'm going to have a good day. I'm going to enjoy my meeting that I'm going to have at 10 o'clock with what's his name. It's like putting the intention out. And even if it sounds phony, it's like it's giving it some consideration, and it's setting it off on a positive tone, right? And some of these things can be done while getting that blood pumping and walking around the block or whatever it is, and all of it done with focus and a deliberate choice to do it. I really like the way he did that and the enthusiasm. Like I say, have a watch of the video. It's a great video, I think. I mean, some of it's pretty elaborate. It's a lot more elaborate than I'm doing. He talks about asking questions too, and this once again can be all done through the process of these other things, while having a cup of water and so on. It doesn't have to be do one and then the other, but and it doesn't have to be that anyone has to do any of these things. He's just telling us what he's doing. But what I'm saying is, if we can get into a morning routine which primes us to be more confident for the day, to make a deliberate choice that this is going to be a good day, we're going to be productive today. So asking the questions, what do I have to be happy about? And to feel these questions in the answer, right? To answer them. What do I have to be happy about? Well, hey, I woke up alive, man, come on. And things like this, right? What do I have to be excited about? Well, I felt that breath all the way to my toes. Isn't that amazing? Like, I don't even know how the heck that works, all kinds. You can go through a list of things. What do I have to be proud about? What to be proud about? My goodness, I look at my kids and I go, what a friggin' miracle. Like, these kids are going out and they're making a life of their own. It's not like I'm proud that I did that. It's just like it's like a positive pride. There's this talk about how pride is the bane of humanity. It's nonsense. If it's pride and vanity and so on, but it's pride in some sort of accomplishment that we got something done, that's like a good feeling, right? It's the other kind of prides that, I'm so good and everybody else is shit. That's kind of the pride that'll drive us down, But pride is good. What do I have to be proud about? What do I have to be grateful for? Now there's something we can really drive home, right? When we be grateful for all the blessings that we have, and not only the blessings, all the shit that we have in our lives as well. If we can finally see that as the impetus that's going to drive us towards why it is we want to be more confident, then wow, we can be grateful for all those experiences too, right? And what are we passionate about? You know, we might be passionate. I mean, the things that if we can identify what we're passionate about, we can see the drivers. It's like all of a sudden we've identified the turbocharger within ourselves that'll boost us when we need it, right? What do I have to enjoy in life? And there's so many things, but even if we just pick out a few of them, you know, after that whole day of work and I finally get to sit down with my son and play a little bit of guitar, you know, and connect, isn't that astounding, you know? Or, and so on. What am I committed to? And these a lot of these things are reminders, right? It's not so much that we need to know it again just because we're going through a routine. We don't get into the humdrum of it. Is we can pick something different every day and realize, what am I committed to? Well, that gets us into the mind of what it is that I'm doing today and why it's important. It's all connected into the bigger picture of what I'm doing, right? I'm trying to build something here. I'm trying to build this building. And why am I building it? Because this business is important for the industry and the people it serves and so on. And I can remind myself as to why I'm committed to this, right? Who do I love, right? That's important. And hopefully one of those individuals on that list is ourselves. Because if we don't love ourselves in some way, and I don't mean just some phony love as, oh, I'm so frickin' great, but deeply, man, holy shit. This is astounding that this organism is able to go forward and this energy I call life is able to be infused and mixed with that and just create something. That's astounding, you know, something to love. And who loves me, you know? Once again, hopefully one of those individuals is us, right? He talks about that. He talks about reading, sitting down and reading something of value to get the day primed, motivational, inspirational, and so on. He talks about doing a daily planner, sitting down and getting the day primed, getting it planned out. I think that's important too. An accountability call. If we're accountable to somebody, if we can connect with them sometime during the morning and say, hey, look, this is what I'm planning on doing. Let's check back at the end of the day, see how we did, right? And then, of course, workout at some point. He likes to do it in the morning. I've done it at different times, but I usually, when I'm in the routine of it, getting out and doing some road work, pretty quick on, right first thing in the morning, then it's done, the blood is pumping, ever the juices are running, the confidence starts to flow, the emotions are primed, they're good, and I can do my affirmations. There's the one that comes in with incantations. Do the affirmations at that point. Thoughts come at that point in time, and things get going. I think this is really important for our confidence, for our well-being, for our lives, our energy, our emotions, our health. After all, this is really about health. Confidence is about health, because if we're living a life of anxiety and living in fear, we're not fully emotionally healthy. And we're not emotionally healthy, it affects the body and it helps the mind, and we begin to kind of deteriorate into this depression, right? We want to live life physically, mentally, emotionally well and healthy, and starting the day off each day on the right foot, energetic, enthusiastic, and with confidence is going to help us. Hopefully this is great. Steve again chatting, and thank you to the gentleman over at Project Life Mastery. Talk again soon. Bye for now.